but land in the easternmost part of Praia de Luz will be searched, near where Christian B lived and close to where Madeleine McCann disappeared. Police are searching for a body or some indication that she may have been there at that time.
But why is this search different? How is this search different? Well, according to the Mirror, investigators were clad in gloves and hard hats as they focused their attention on the farmhouse surrounded by partially collapsed outbuildings. They've since begun methodically clearing debris, rubble, and thick vegetation, again according to the Mirror, from the ground surrounding this neglected structure. The remote location is close to where Madeleine vanished in 2007. Well, not really. It's no longer even in the same town. There are open stretches of land much closer to apartment 5A than the Roja Negra. And remember, anyone walking on the slopes up the Roja Negra can be seen for miles from those below it, or by those below it, or on the Roja Negra, because it's so bare and very exposed. So if you were carrying someone or taking someone up there, or even driving up there, someone would see you. Now, according to the Mirror, a well-placed Portuguese source confirmed this week's operation would be a land search to look for any signs of Madeleine's body. A land search. Do you think that's the way to go? And so what do you think? After day one, did they find anything?
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. In this analysis, we'll briefly review the search strategy and elements of the search, and then we'll examine how this search, the second in 2 years from the German authorities, is different from other searches. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Again, bear in mind, I've been in Praia de Luz just a couple of weeks ago, earlier in May, and so a lot of the footage you're seeing is from May this year when I was boots on the ground. If you appreciate that, you're welcome to hit the thanks button. I certainly would appreciate that. And let's get started. Now, according to the Mirror, they were doing a blow-by-blow, just reviewing, following every moment, sort of breathlessly. You know, is the breakthrough going to come in the next 5 minutes? And so they were really reporting on the moments as they were unfolding, starting with this. The search is underway. German detectives held a briefing with their Portuguese counterparts lasting around 15 minutes. The meeting ended shortly before 9 a.m. German search teams then headed inland away from the tents. They could be seen holding shovels and wearing hard hats. Meanwhile, strimmers can be heard cutting away at the undergrowth. I think we refer to them as weed eaters. A second team are walking up the hill towards an abandoned farm building. Now, I personally don't think Madeleine's remains are on land, and I think coming from another country and handing out shovels reveals the level of ignorance that we're dealing with here, ignorance about the lay of the land in Portugal. Portugal has a coastline of almost 1,800 kilometers, about 1,115 miles, one of the longest in all of Europe, and you're just going to ignore that? You're going to just go inland as though there's no coastline. And I think the fact that this crime occurred in a coastal town with a witness seeing someone walking towards the coast, but you want to just throw that out and go inland digging holes, completely misses the point. Why was the abductor heading to the sea? What, only to turn around and then head in the opposite direction? Again, according to the Mirror, German police are inside the main part of the abandoned farmhouse. Every so often they appear back outside, emptying buckets of rubble. The Mirror goes on to note 2 other detectives are photographing various partly collapsed outbuildings surrounding the farmhouse. The German search team can be seen scraping soil and digging inside the abandoned farmhouse. Ground workers are using strimmers to cut back the undergrowth. Police can now be seen using a shovel and a pickaxe to penetrate the ground between the outbuildings. So quite a lot of things were happening that even made the area above the search a no-fly zone. And then they say they are currently focusing their efforts on an abandoned farmhouse on the outskirts of Praia de Luz. 2 wells in the Praia de Luz area will be drained as part of fresh efforts into the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. So there is this idea of looking into water, but at the bottom of a well. And so the authorities say they're going to remove the water from 2 wells to see if there's anything of interest. The major search operation for Madeleine McCann announced this week is the first to take place, according to the Mirror, in around 2 years. Back in 2023, German police combed an area around the Barachem do Arade reservoir, located around 30 miles from Praia de Luz, where the 3-year-old went missing in 2007. Well, on that occasion, the German FBI didn't find anything. So nothing found during that search either. Also, according to the Mirror, former chief executive of the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Command, Jim Gamble, you probably heard, if you know this case, you probably heard his name before. He told Sky News the current search could be a desperate last throw of the dice. Well, I really think it is, certainly in terms of the German authorities and Christian Bruckner. Jim Gamble added, I've said many, many times the crime scene was bungled at the time, and so there was no control. And so that chaos at the beginning, that came at a cost to the investigation. Now, Mr. Gamble, one of the main blowhards in the Netflix series, you sort of see him pontificating endlessly on this case. He doesn't seem to have any suggestions of his own. It doesn't help to mock and criticize law enforcement when you don't have anything of use to offer instead. It's actually very easy to do that, to sit on the sidelines and laugh and criticize. It's much more difficult to offer helpful suggestions. So with that in mind, to address the initial question, how is the search different? And is it different? Now, the Mirror also covered this. There was a Met detective, Chief Inspector Peter Kirkham, who said that the Madeleine McCann search is not just the police going over old ground, but he also warned the chance of a breakthrough is small. Well, that part is certainly accurate. The same article goes on to note there have been several large-scale searches connected to Madeleine McCann in the many years since she disappeared. And so, again, what is different this time? Well, the main difference is that on this occasion, officers are not just working from the crime scene, from apartment 5A, but working back from a possible suspect, Christian Bruckner, as well. And this provides a very different context for the investigation as a whole and for the searches in particular, but the importance of this is often overlooked. And this, in my view, is the fatal flaw behind this search. If you have the wrong suspect, then no matter how much you work back, you're working backwards, and you're not going to find anything. According to the Mirror, detectives investigating a serious crime are usually engaged in what is known as a reactive investigation. A crime happens and officers react to it by following lines of inquiry, which could explain how it came to happen. Now, we know back in 2007, they actually weren't allowed to follow certain lines of inquiry. Do you remember that? Searches connected with a reactive investigation tend to be focused on the crime scene, as at least some part of the crime must have happened right there. Now, it seems like they're criticizing a reactive investigation and saying it must be more contextual. What I find laughable about this whole thing is what is more reactive than dogs coming onto the scene, specially trained cadaver dogs, blood dogs. They've got a special skill set that is different to any other dog. And they're trained to find human remains, human blood, right? And they then react, and then the human beings decide not to react to that. Anyway, isn't it interesting? This is essentially a British case, and no British cops are in the picture whatsoever. You have a little British girl missing for 18 years, and here we are today, no British authorities on the ground searching for her. Instead, it's the Germans and Portuguese. I mean, that's...
Oh, it's a little hypocritical. What'd you say?
I'm not going to take it further than that. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.